Hello, this is Spellbinder with this special article that came out today. Though it was written in the UK on September the 8th by the Palestine Telegraph by Peter Erie. I guess that's how it is, or Ear. Some of them kind of been interested in. Pandora's box. Once we open the box, there's no going back. And this is how the New World Order is working. They're going to open this box and get you to go along with the opening, and then once stuff starts coming out of it, you won't be able to put it back in, and it's the end of civilization as you ever remembered it or ever will know it to be. It's called Pandora's Box Special Report, New World Order ploy. It says, have you ever asked yourself why the public have to pay for bad management of the banking and financial sectors? Have you ever asked why these institutions always appear to be trading themselves out of toxic debt very quickly and continue to pay their executives extremely high salaries and bonuses? Do you ever ask why government and the police do not confront the real organized crime that Gordon Bowden is starting to reveal? This is the reason why. The reason why is because the proceeds from all these banking scams, investor ripoffs, and the revenue from the sale of drugs is the true source of funding for the New World Order. If one adds to this the control of the world's natural resources and their associated markets, we can start to understand the axis of evil. You may also be surprised to learn that most of these behind this ploy are very senior members of the Freemasons, such as ex-presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, politicians, military leaders, police, CEOs, etc., and cover every aspect of life from running a gold mine to being part of a very large pedophile ring. The list is endless. How can we allow governments to continue this deceit and pull the wool over our eyes? Well, let me put it into context. We have seen large banks and financial institutes collapse overnight, but unlike the corporate sectors, suddenly the government becomes involved and tells us that they have to bail these institutions out using taxpayer money. In that corporate sector, however, a multinational company or any company can go bust and no government rescue plan takes place. Ever ask yourself, why is it that the major banks can get into difficulty as a direct result of bad management and shed its toxic debt using our money? Why is it that within 1 year that same entity is claiming huge profits and paying out huge bonuses? Can one clearly see a very one-sided process emerging from the ashes? We see the banking sector emerge victoriously, with our government, as a shareholder, taking a slice of the cake, or the bank having its ability to repay their debt to the government. One would then assume that with that debt to the government being settled, the whole exercise is complete. However, we, the taxpayers, are told for the next 5 to 10 years we have to endure a cutback on public sector spending and high taxes to pay for the bailout. So, my question would be that if the banks trade out of debt and go into surplus, and if they rectify their debt and the government, then surely the ledger books are back in balance. So why do the public have to continue to suffer in the loss of public sector jobs, cutbacks in NHS public sector services, closure of schools, nursing homes? Why do we have to endure higher taxes, pay freezes, salary cuts, and reduction in benefits for indefinite periods of time? When this period is over and the so-called debt has been repaid and the government is back in the surplus, does that mean that we, the public, will see a dramatic tax reduction, therefore a bonus to thank us for the eternal sacrifice? The answer is clearly no. This complete scam is the work of the New World Order, who intentionally caused this to happen. They want the commercial sector and private sectors to collapse so they can go amongst the carcasses of dead companies, empty premises and houses, and pick up very lucrative deal for themselves at below cost. Yes, they're doing this to get everything down so they can just buy it up at pennies on the dollar. One really does need to look deeper into the financial workings of Wall Street, City of London, and the notorious Rockefellers and Rothschilds, who all form part of this new world. We also need to look into the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank and the failings of Alan Greenspan, who once said, "The Fed is an independent agency. There is no other agency in government that can overrule actions that we take." Now we have the current lies and deceit from Ben Bernanke, who has very strong ties with the Bilderberg Group, which is the backbone of the New World Order. We have our respective governments handing out vast sums of money and telling us how good they are at riding out the storm, and that the worst is over, when in actual fact, the big storm is yet to come. There is a light at the end of the tunnel? Yes, there certainly is, but it's a train coming in the opposite direction. What I find totally unacceptable is that we have seen many famous traditional British companies go under as a direct result of poor management, or in some cases greedy, fraudulent directors who siphon off the profits, and yet in the banking sector the same has happened, but we the public have to bail them out. This is a big con. It is clear that the New World Order masters plan to dehumanize the average person by paying them as little as possible, taxing them as much as possible, educate them as little as possible, encourage the use of drugs, their main source of income, vaccinate us with all their untested poison, split up the family unit, and eventually make us all subservient to the state. The final straw is when they encourage you, or should I say entice you, to get yourself into debt and then force foreclosure or bankruptcy. The next thing to follow is the loss of your job, the loss of your home, the very high unemployment. One would have to add that this New World Order's master plan of reducing the population of the world by mass genocide, having achieved all the above, they have full control over your life. The final planned insult is to have everyone implanted with a simple chip and pin device so that they can monitor where you are and in some cases what you're doing. The chip and pin would be able to switch on and off by the government at any given time. Therefore, if you are an activist or just an ordinary citizen who speaks out against the government, or don't pay your parking tickets or anything that you owe, they could just deny you access to your bank, medical care, etc. Yes, that's why they want to go to a cashless society. It's simple to understand that. I guess you wouldn't believe this is happening. I can assure you that it's already started in the medical profession, with such devices being manipulated in certain patients who require regular monitoring or treatment. Here is the proof that research into this area is well underway. A human microchip implant is an integrated circuit device, or an RFID transponder encased in silicate glass and implanted in the body of a human being. A subdermal implant typically contains a unique ID number that can be linked back to information contained in an external mega database, such as personal identification, medical history, medications, allergies, and contact information. Early research was carried out in 1998 by British scientist Kevin Warwick, who had such a device implanted and not only identified his arrival at work, but also opened doors, switched on lighting in his computer. Ooh, it sounds convenient, doesn't it? Oh, it's a control freak device. Technology is now much more advanced, and they already have such devices about the size of a grain of rice that can be injected into humans. This has certainly been linked and talked about by the Rockefellers, who would dearly love such a programming to be initiated. Basically, it has been tried and tested, so don't be surprised if this becomes a norm or a way of life in the future. You'd be interested to note that the quarter of the Germans, which I don't know why, I guess they don't believe in the mark of the beast, would be more than happy to have a chip implanted. At a recent conference by the head of Germany's IT trade body, Professor August Wilhelm Schuher, told the audience at an opening ceremony at CeBIT Technology Exposition that 1 in 4 of his countrymen are happy to have a microchip inserted for ID purposes. It means shorter lines in the supermarket. A quarter of Germans would be happy to have a chip implanted under their skin. From my own perspective, it really does bring the true meaning to Big Brother is watching you, or the mark of the beast. I have talked many times about the axis of evil being the center of the big city of London rather than in some faraway land in the Middle East. I have discussed the rape of the banking financial sectors, oil, gas, and mining, and that potential investors are becoming small pawns in this trillion-dollar ripoff. We have revealed 22 Arlington Street, London, as being one of the such locations for this sordid activity, and my future articles will give even more such locations. It would be fitting before closing this special article to print in its entirety a report from Mr. Mathur Chang, the former political secretary of Tun Mahathir Mohamad. Dr. Mahathir was the fourth Prime Minister of Malaysia. He held the post for 22 years, from 1981 to 2003, making Malaysia's longest-serving Prime Minister and one of the longest-serving leaders in the Asian. Mahathir's political career spanning almost 40 years. Mahathir's Cheng has in the past been pretty accurate with some of his forecasts, and if he's right on this one, we are all in for a very hard time. I would first of all like to print a statement that is shown on his own webpage, which puts the New World Order in true perspective. Since I've entered politics, I have chiefly had men views confided in me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacturing are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak of it in condemnation of it. President Woodrow Wilson, 28th President of the United States. Here is Matthew Chang's full report. Too big to fail. Global banks will collapse between now and the first quarter of 2011. And he will go on and explain this to you. I will just go through it slow if you want to read it here, or I'll have the link to this article at the bottom of this video on my YouTube channel. But he goes through and he starts telling you this is what he's heard. I mean, Woodrow Wilson's told you. He was hoodwinked in what he did. They started way back when. They were very patient people when they want to take over the world. They believe in reincarnation, believe they'll come back and be able to continue their work. If you don't believe in it, they do. And that's why this is so insidious and so evil, because it just makes it so it will keep going on and on and on. And there's no stopping it, because they have this firm belief that they're coming back to pick up where they left off. And it makes it so the whole thing, whoever in the next generation gets in charge, will have full power over the human race. Especially if they get 90% of us gone and there's only 500 million of us, shoot, they'll be able to control us like robots. And dude, I see Resident Evil mutations out of all this. I really do. I see the Umbrella Corporation has taken over the planet. And that's what basically it is. It's called an Umbrella Corporation. It's thousands of these mega elitist corporations now working together under one umbrella, who are now ruling the planet. And I'm just here trying to wake you up to this, because that's how I see it, and it's obvious. I mean, you can call it the octopus. That was a theory back in the 70s when I first started hearing about it, that has many tentacles over the world. And these people are going to absolutely destroy us and make us into slaves. And they're going to become kings and queens and princes and whatever, running around in silly crowns and robes and prancing about, telling us to bow to them and things. You just wait and see. Go hide and see if you don't believe this. If your people are so dumbed down and don't believe that, you should read the articles about history. They've taken history away from us. The schools are not teaching. They're saying they're putting history smaller and smaller. Instead of a 3-year course in history, it's now a 2-year course mixed in with geography. So it's all watered down. So nobody learns the mistakes we made in the past. So when they happen again, you'll never know that you've been hoodwinked, because you don't know your past, knowing that the same thing that happened back then is happening again. But this time they have technology to make sure it happens right. Before they didn't have that and they failed. They're not going to fail this time, my friends. This time we're going to go down if we don't stop them now. Well, that's about all I have to say for today. I don't know any other way of explaining it to you, but we have been deliberately dumbed down. We've been deliberately poisoned and vaccinatedly poisoned. They're killing people down in the Gulf, because there's a lot of people getting sick, bleeding out their orifices, skin lesions. I mean, what else could you have to do? The blue flu, they're getting sick, and I mean, and it's all these coexit toxins coming up out of the water. They dump trillions or millions of barrels, reached 2 million barrels of coexit 9500 and 9527A into the Gulf. And you think that stuff's just going to stay in there? No, the water's warming up. It's going to come up because it's like a degreaser. Well, until next time, this is Spellbinder. Be good at it, and good day.